Welcome home, horror fans. My name's Adam.
And I'm Zoe, and in today's episode, we'll be discussing Nosferatu, Heretic, and Terrifier 3. And what better way to start than by discussing a film that we just got back from seeing?
We literally just got back from the cinema seeing Nosferatu. It is just released here in Australia, New Year's Day. And we've got some things to say about it, that's for sure.
We definitely do. Now, I think you should lead us with this one because this seemed to be a film that you were anticipating for a while.
Of course, yes. I was on the hype train here. Everybody knows this is the big new release from Robert Eggers, who is known for The Witch, The Lighthouse. And of course, these are really great films. Yep. He is definitely a director to keep an eye on. And the reviews for this film have been phenomenal. I mean, we're talking 10s out of everybody that we've been listening.
10.
10.
Like Rotten Tomato scores are insane. IMDb looks fantastic for a horror. Let's just say Robert Eggers maybe needs to steer a little clear of period pieces, I feel like. I feel like it's time to explore a different route of filmmaking. But
before we dig too hard into this film, the film does look beautiful. Eggers here obviously showing off his artistry with the direction. You agree this film looks absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, the film is stunning, and some of his lingering shots in this movie are just it seems to show his talent as a filmmaker, as a director, just like no other. He really is incredible at what he does. However, it's more the source material that I found I struggled with. I think that this film was probably maybe even 45 minutes longer than it needed to be.
And this film certainly suffers from that a little bit. The best way I could sum this up when I came out of the theater was if you're looking to go see a piece of Shakespearean drama, you want to see something that sounds great, has great English dialogue, performed really well, you'll love this movie.
Yes,
it really is a lot of, it's like watching a play. That's what it is. It's a really beautiful, well-spoken play. But if you're not in the mood to go and watch basically what really does feel like a Shakespearean play about horror, then you're not going to love this film.
No.
And I felt like that was the case with the audience that we watched it with.
I fear a lot of people are going to be disappointed with Nosferatu because I think that the casual horror moviegoer or moviegoer in general, it is not for you.
No.
It's not. It, like you said, it is like sitting there and watching a very old stage play.
Yeah.
And there's nothing specifically wrong with that. Like, the film is beautiful, and I'm sure that people would argue the story is fantastic. But for me, it lacks a lot of substance and it lacks what I need. I find that the character development in it was pretty average, and I struggle if there's not a character that I connect with straight away.
Yeah, exactly. So to put it bluntly, it aims to do a certain thing and it nails it. It is perfect in what it's trying to be. But outside of that, for what we probably want as a modern horror audience, I suppose, keep in mind that this film, like you said, it does not have a lot of character development. There's not a huge amount of story. It's very slow paced, as a lot of people will do mention in their reviews. You sort of have to go in expecting this is a slow burn film. And outside of that, it's hard to maybe even care a lot about these characters who are very well acted.
Yeah, Nicholas Holt's character is amazing. He's brilliant to watch. He's probably one of the best, I would say, that unfolds on screen.
Yeah, the actors here, you can't. Like Willem Dafoe, Nicholas Holt, even Lily Depp, I thought was amazing. The cast I really, really enjoyed in the film. Count Orlok also pretty cool, well put together from old Skarsgård.
See, I don't want to dive too much into the spoilers because, as we know, there hasn't really been much seen of Skarsgård's character.
That's
for this
right,
film.
hidden away.
They've managed to keep it pretty under wraps, but in my personal opinion, he wasn't what I hoped for as presented as Nosferatu. But I won't say anything other than that. What I will say is that if you've seen Francis Ford Coppola's Dracula, and you liked it, then you'll probably love this film. I, for one, saw that film for the first time a couple of weeks ago, and I didn't love it. So yeah, if you didn't love it, you're probably not going to love this one.
So Skarsgård wasn't your favourite Dracula, let's say. He wasn't your favourite vampire.
I definitely, if I had to pick between the two, Gary Oldman 100% ran circles around him. But I think for me with vampire stories, I definitely prefer the more modern age telling of vampire stories. Like things like Only Lovers Left Alive. Like I definitely prefer that version of vampires than the classic Dracula story.
Yeah. And I think too, like I actually did like Count Orlok. I didn't mind him as a vampire. I thought he was really, really cool. That being said, I felt like they probably, again, they didn't really do a lot with the character per se in terms of story. He had some cool scenes. Yeah, you know, it was a lot of fun watching him, but the story ends a certain way, which again, we don't want to spoil, which just felt a bit off, a bit wrong.
Yeah.
I want to say I want to leave it at that.
Anticlimactic.
Yeah, I would say on a couple of notes, anticlimactic, without spoiling anything. And that's pretty much, I think, where we'll leave this this talk about it. If you have seen the movie, we would love to know what you thought of it. I think the expectation here is the big thing. If you're expecting to go in and see a very lengthy, just beautiful piece of art that maybe doesn't tell a huge story, cool, you'll love it. But it's not a traditional modern film, so just be very wary.
It's definitely not for everyone, and not for people with a low attention span. Like
yes,
me.
yes, there are a few people struggling with attention in our audience as well. So, look, go in with a slow burn in mind, and maybe you'll have a good time. And that brings us to our next film we're going to talk about,
which is Heretic.
I won't keep you if you wish to leave, but I want you to choose which door to go through based on your faith.
What does this have to do with us leaving?
Everything.
Heretic is a film which I got to see a couple of times in the cinema.
Yeah,
this
loved
is
it.
This is a film that did also get a lot of hype, but mostly really just specifically for Hugh Grant's performance.
Which I can completely agree with.
Yeah.
Absolutely. As Mr. Reed, Hugh Grant is just
phenomenal.
It feels like a revival of his career.
Oh, I honestly sat through and obviously everyone knows of Hugh Grant. I've never sat around and like just absolutely gushed over his performances before. I fell in love with that man during watching this film. I was like, wow, I can see it now.
Hugh Grant as Mr. Reed kind of reminds me of David Dastmalchian as
Jack Delroy.
Delroy.
Yeah.
It's literally the embodiment of a character.
Yes.
These actors were born to play this character and born for this role. Hugh Grant is no different. He embodies him, and it's just like you are watching this real performance of this real guy.
It's amazing. Heretic is a film about basically a guy who lives alone and is visited upon by a couple of walking Mormons, a couple of sisters of the faith who come to talk about religion. They don't know that he is actually somebody very well versed in religion, and they get more than they can chew when they do enter his home and start to, let's say, fall under his tricks and lies and stuff like that. But it's really great because you feel tension constantly throughout the movie. You don't know if he's just a nice old man. You don't know if he's really creepy. So you constantly are guessing, is he actually up to no good? Is he telling the truth? We get this great back and forth. And it's just a movie which has a pretty simple premise of a couple of people in one room. And it's just done very, very well.
I think the sisters as well, Sister Barnes and Sister Paxton, played by Sophie Thatcher and Chloe East, they sell it as well. They sell it so well. You sit there and you feel this tension rising and rising and rising, and it's majorly because of their performances. Hugh Grant kind of stays throughout it, very monotone, very calm. So you you're not really experiencing a sense of dread from him. It's more from the girls that are like, oh my God, what are we going to do? This guy's a nutcase. But the whole time, like everything Hugh Grant was saying, I was like, this is such a breath of fresh air. I think that we've seen so many religious horror films this year that I was getting sick to death of them. So many nuns, so many worshippers of God, and to see Hugh Grant kind of throw it back in their faces for an hour and a half was just...
He just manages to deconstruct religion. Just so well. To a couple of characters who are supposed to be of the faith and believe in it fully, he manages to really pull apart their faith and make them sort of question it. And it's done through a lot of facts and some great metaphors, really great metaphors. And we really see a performance here which shows not just a bit of creepiness and dread from him, but incredible charm and phenomenal humor. And he makes me laugh out loud multiple times throughout his performance, mentioning weird things like Jar Jar Binks and other things we just don't
Monopoly
expect.
And
just
some of the funniest comparisons of religion to just things that you wouldn't possibly think of.
Yeah,
and
everyday things. He makes it work though. Hugh Grant takes this dialogue and he makes it all work. And it's just mind-blowing. And it's worth seeing this film if you haven't seen it, purely for his performance. That being said...
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like we were talking up Hugh Grant so much that I forgot that I actually hated the ending of this film.
That being said, the film gets to a point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The cinema experience at the start of this film, for about 45 minutes, I would say, was one of my favorite cinema experiences of 2024. It was fantastic. I was like, this movie is just incredible. And then it gets to a point where it's like, oh, it kind of doesn't know what it's doing or where it wants to go, and you can really see it. It's very evident, and it gets ridiculous. It gets silly, and it's very disappointing because I feel like so many horrors stuck the landing with the endings this year. This one just didn't.
Well, it does fall prey to a standard cliche in horror movies in which that they kind of write themselves into a hole. They don't know really how to end the film, and this really felt like it. This movie was just 5 stars. It's just blowing me away. I'm just absolutely loving what's going on in front of me. And then it gets to a point, I want to say around halfway through or just over in the film, and unfortunately, it just falls off a cliff.
Yeah, I think I remember turning to you like 45 minutes in and go, oh my God, this movie's amazing. I love it so much. And then like 15 minutes later, I'm like, did this movie just get shit all of a sudden? Like that's how it feels. It snaps so quickly. And it's just like, oh, why?
Yeah, it's really sad because the film is so real. It feels so real and it's just so grounded. And in its performances and its writing and everything. And then all of a sudden, it has to just be weird and do odd things. It just tries to do too much.
I definitely think that a lot of the times with horror as well, you can tend to forgive a not so great ending. But with this, the ending of the film does actually go for quite some time. It's got to be at least 25 minutes that they spend wrapping it up. And unfortunately, that starts to diminish any good that you'd seen.
That's a sad part.
To the point where you're remembering how amazing Hugh Grant was, but it's less like, oh, this is a 5-star film, and more like, why? Why did it do this?
They literally could have just had another 30, 40 minutes of them talking, and then we would have walked out there going, this was a phenomenal
honestly,
movie.
like, without spoiling it, they could have just killed off everyone and just been like, movie over. And then it would have been like, okay, yeah, that's a good ending.
Yeah.
Like, they could have done anything else, is what I'm trying to say.
Well, that's the thing. So I can suggest you see this film if you haven't seen it, but keep in mind, it is going to go weird at some point.
Just expect something crazy.
Just expect the ending to be crazy, unfortunately. But it's worth it. Hugh Grant is just phenomenal.
I don't think anyone could argue against his performance being one of a kind.
So watchable. I could watch that first half of the movie just over and over and over again.
Agreed.
So, and that's enough raving about that. What do we got next?
Well, let's talk about one that we still think pretty positively of.
Yep.
The one and only Terrifier 3.
Looking forward to the best Christmas ever, filled with fun, smiles, and laughter.
Terrifier 3, a movie we actually like.
This took Terrifier 3 and Terrifier in general, took everyone in 2024, even just not even horror movie goers, everyone by storm.
Huge, yeah.
It just did massive.
Huge numbers.
Yeah.
This is a budget that was, they say 2 million, 5 million. Anyways, a very low budget, ends up making around 100 million. That is a ridiculous profit. Ridiculous profit. Apparently, it was the most successful unrestricted film ever put to cinema. And this is a big deal. It is now officially a household name.
I mean, you got to imagine, we're talking about a film that's first film was a shitty Netflix film. Like, it literally straight to Netflix as far as I know. And I saw it on TikTok and everyone like, oh my God, this film is so gross. You have to go and watch it. And of course I go and watch it. And it's not a film. It's just, let's murder people for no reason. Let's just shock people. And now we've got 2 movies, Terrifier 2 and Terrifier 3, that have some of the greatest storytelling in these types of slasher flicks that I've ever seen. Like, it's
getting to be a real movie.
Movie.
They're becoming real movies. And I think that's what I like the most about Terrifier 3 is I'm going as this is the first Terrifier movie that I actually saw in the cinema. I did not see Terrifier 2 in the films, and I got to see Terrifier 3 a number of times actually this time
we
on the
did.
big screen. And I'll say, going to watch it in the cinema, it looked like a real film,
It did.
unlike some of
It
the
did.
early Terrifier movies that did look a little bit cheap or straight to DVD, let's say. This looked as good, if not better, than a lot of other films that I've seen at the cinema this year. So, really hats off to Damon Leone and the team. They've gone and stretched this very small budget and made a film that just looks fantastic
I
now.
tell you what,
he's
it
in
is
the big leagues.
so impressive as a horror fan to see a film like this that is really pushing the boundaries and trying to be as disgusting as possible. Make it to kind of mainstream audiences. Like, everyone is talking about it. And I'm no fucking gatekeeper. I'm all
Yeah, of
for
course,
it. Let's get, like, horror out there. But for a film like this to be able to branch out as far as it has, it is one of the most impressive things I've seen in terms of horror.
Yeah, and I think that the thing is the hype around this has gotten so big now that a lot of people went to see this movie without have seen any other Terrifiers. And it was actually kind of fun because it was the movie you could take your friends to and they didn't know what they were signing up to.
Yeah.
You're like, come and watch this Terrifier movie. And they got no idea. And when they sit down and they see some guy's balls get cut off by a chainsaw, you might be like, sorry. It was the fun one to bring people. Yeah, it was kind of like, it was like the Rick Roll of films who, get really surprised.
Very, very impressive. And it just goes to show, like, that horror is always commanding attention, especially the more fucked up and crazy and disgusting, the better. And I'm so impressed and I'm so proud of Terrifier 3. And I feel like now we've got to talk about Lauren Levera, who is going to be a staple in horror.
It's weird that she already isn't. Like, after Terrifier 2's performance and, like, her performance in the film's performance, it's very surprising. Of course, her being the final girl of Terrifier 2 and obviously just the main character in the Terrifier franchise, she's going to be turning a lot of heads. I know I think she's been cast in the new,
Darren Lynn Bousman
film?
film.
in the new Lynn Bousman film, which, sorry. For those who don't know who Bousman is, he is the director of Saw 2. He made
that's it?
He did make some good Saw movies. We're not judging him for that. But if you've watched any of his other films since, he hasn't really been up to really great movies since he's
Spiral
Saw franchise. But look, fingers crossed this one's good. Fingers crossed. So anyway, she's moving on to other movies.
Yep.
We are excited to see her in as much as we can. I think we're really excited to see her career flourish.
I'm
for sure.
very excited to see her be a name for horror for the rest of her life.
Yeah.
Because I think that that's where she is.
and other genres
She's
too.
cementing kind of like a Jamie Lee Curtis level sort of name for herself.
I think
And
she can be a really big name just in general.
I
think
couldn't be
she's-
happier.
she
I
could have
think
a huge
she's
career.
spectacular. Terrifier 2 was just her performance in that. I'm sorry. That back half of that film is some of the most tense pieces of cinema that I've ever seen. And it's all thanks to her and Art the Clown as well, but to her.
One of the best performances of a final girl or protagonist, I suppose, in a horror film that was a very low budget. Like, there aren't many super low budget indie films that don't look, amazing, but they actually have a really great actor or actress.
They
in them.
lucked out.
And they got very
they
lucky
did.
with the casting. And on that note, of course, they got very lucky with David Howard Thornton as Art the Clown, who is, of course, the linchpin of this franchise, who's just really giving us the best performance of Art in Terrifier 3.
Another one that's really kind of cemented their name into horror. Art the Clown will forever be one of the greats.
But also surprising that he hasn't moved on to much more so far either. So hopefully, I think with the two of them, because they really are the stars of the show here, they really deserve to flourish out. I'm sure that they're going to be amazing in Terrifier 4, which we're very excited for as well. But I think the two of them, we should see a lot more.
I think they've both got some very big careers ahead. Unfortunately for David Howard Thornton, I think that a lot of his roles are going to be his face covered up. But Lauren Levera, couldn't be happier for her. I think that she's got a very long, happy well, not too happy because she'll be screaming half the time, but long career ahead of her. So
Yeah, but I think it'd be even fun to see the two of them work together in another horror movie. That would
Yeah,
be really,
very
really cool as
interesting.
well. Maybe just make her the villain and him the good guy. And
Can you imagine?
Yeah, that would be a lot of fun.
They could do the roles reversed in Terrifier 4.
Oh,
Well, I suppose she's kind of already like the heroine of the story in the sense that they're now building her up as this force to be reckoned with, as the only person who can defeat the evil that is Art the Clown. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with that in number 4.
possibly space.
Oh, don't even mention that. Yes, there is some rumors floating around the Twitter sphere that they will go to space in Terrifier 4.
I don't know if I believe it. There's been a bit of talk about Terrifier for Art and Space, but I don't know. I can't really see that.
I don't really know how to
think they're ready for
feel
that yet.
because I know that the film is still, like, I guess you could say it's unrealistic, but is it that unrealistic that they're
I
going to
think
go
I
and
could
fly
see it
up
happening at some
space?
point, but I don't see it happening in the next movie. They've got too many things to resolve already.
Well, haven't they said the next film's going to be the last one though?
Look, they keep saying that, I think.
Yeah.
They're always going to say it's the last one. They're going to make more Art the Clown movies. That thing is just too...
It's never going to die.
It's too much of a cash cow.
Yeah.
They're going to be making those until Damon and David are dead. Like, let's be honest. So that's it from us today, guys. A couple of movies ticked off the list, which is awesome. Let us know which ones you've seen, what you thought, as always. And, of course, thanks for watching, guys, and we'll see you next one.
See you next time, guys.